Just gonna give some people a couple of minutes. Hey, everybody, come on in. I see you on Wisdom. I'm ready to get started now. I hope to not keep you all long. It is after 9 o'clock on the East Coast, my time. For those of you who are East Coast, it's almost 9:30. And I did share um, that I was going to definitely be coming in and talking a little bit more about what we're going to just be discussing throughout the week. I hope you all checked out the episode, and there were two videos that was released on my YouTube channel, official Karen Oliver. So um, there's always going to be a video or a live released on YouTube. If you want to catch the latest information and news, you want to make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. We're also, like I said, going to send out a new episode this week as well on Thursday. We may even go live, I don't know, but there will be a new episode on Thursday. So I hope you all are well. I hope you all are well. Happy Monday. I hope your Monday was great. I'm gonna get started here in about another minute. It's almost 9:30. So and for those of you who will come back on and watch the replay, thank you so much for catching the replay. Making sure I fix my mic here, y'all. I hope everybody is well. Happy Monday. Who is ready to explore some new things? Every week you all are gonna hear me say that who is ready to explore some new things, who is ready to receive some new things, some new adventures, some new promises. Excuse me. Who's ready? I know I am. So I hope you are. We are still in April. It's April the 22nd. And we're going to go ahead and get started. All right, y'all. So we're going to get started. For real this time, we're going to get started. So it's almost 9:30. Probably had some couple of seconds or minutes left, but I want to talk to you all about um the what we were going to be discussing. The title is it about the community or not? Is it about the people or no? I also shared that we were going to talk about this week about stop carrying people that do not want to be carried. And I kind of gave you guys a glimpse into what I was going to be talking about this week. I gave you all a summary, and that video is already released about how we need to be mindful, how we need to be careful of carrying others that do not want to be carried. So, y'all, this is deep. And we're going to be talking about feelings, emotions. We're going to be talking about a couple of things. So I'm excited about that. And I'm excited to hear your comments. We're going to be discussing the aspects of human self. Like I said, emotions, the community, the world, the environment we live in. So I'm excited about that. And I know that there can be a lot of discussions and a lot of conversations going around this. So I'm definitely excited. Um, but tonight I want to talk a little bit about, is it about the community or not? Is it about the people or no? I was actually talking to one of my possible speakers for the summit that I'm going to be doing, which is going to be presented by my brand. It's going to be our first one. And this is something that I hope to have and do every year. So it's going to be a live coaching summit, Q&A, et cetera, et cetera. And I have the information on my LinkedIn page and everything there. And we can talk about that. If you have questions about that and want to talk about that, you can find information on my LinkedIn page. But anyway, we was having a great conversation this morning before I got busy and before I went to work. And I began to share some things about, us as a people getting out in the community as a whole. And this was my take on it, you guys. My take on it was I want to share this. There has been a whirlwind of social media. We know that technology has grown and it's been so big, but if we want to be really real and technical, we heard about technology getting big and taking over in the early 90s. Let's just be real. I know I heard it when I was younger, when I was in middle school, and I would hear my parents, associates and friends and colleagues and people that my parents went to school with. They talked about this. They talked about how technology was going to take over the generation to come, and it almost has. And so I shared with one of my possible speakers, and we was talking about this, and he was saying that he agreed. And I got to thinking about it more in depth after I got off the phone, and I was just like, we don't want the social media working for us. We got to make social media um we don't want social media working for us. We want to make sure that um work the social media like we're supposed to. We can't let technology as a whole take over. There are people in the community that are missing. That are people in the community that they can't even get to us. They can't even sit down and have a conversation with us because we are too busy on social media. We're too busy. We got every single thing on social media, our business, our ministry. Granted, that is great. That is great for people who cannot physically get out. And that is awesome for people who cannot physically get out. But if we are able to get out, and then we need to show up in the community. It's important to reach people in the community because there's a lot of people in this world that does not have social media. They don't have social accounts. They don't own a computer, and they never will. There's just some people in some generations that's just not opposed to it. And there's some people in my generation or your generation that is not opposed to it because of the dangers that they see. Now, don't get me wrong, social media and technology are good for a lot more things. But a lot of people have gotten steered away from it because of the things that happens and that goes on, what I'm saying, in this life. And they're like, they just don't want to deal with social media. But a lot of us use it for, ministry and our business, and to connect with ones we can't see that's far off. Like we have our entrepreneurs, like our podcast, or um there are other meetings that we have where we can't get across to another country, or we can't get to the other state. We can do a face-to-face video, and that's good in some areas. But what about the people that are lacking in the community? What about the people that really need us in the community? If we don't go to them, and then they'll never find us because they're never going to get on the computer. They're never going to get on social media. Some of them you won't even be able to connect with by phone, or by word of mouth over the social media, because let's be honest. A lot of people say, well, they've got to see this and that because you're all over social media. We got to keep in mind that everybody is not on social media. Your platform should be in more than one area, and the community is a big part of that, because there are people in the community that are just not going to find you. If you think that they're going to find you in the community, they're not, because for one, I'm gonna say this because we're always on social media 100% day in and day out, even when we're at work, on our phones, on our tablets, on our computers. Let's just be honest. And so the people in the community that really need you, that really need your direction, that really need your encouragement, that really need your services for business, how can they find you if you don't get out? And I was talking about that, and I just begin to meditate on that and dig a little bit deeper in that. Like, how are we going to reach them if they never find us on social media? That is just something to think about. I think community is important. The environment, mingling, networking with the people in your community is important. Um, Going outside of your community is good too, but have you touched home base with the community that you're in, the area that you're in? You know, it's important, and I don't think that I just think that for me, I don't know if many of you feel like I do, but I just don't want to lose that. Um, don't want to lose the people in the community. I don't want them to feel like they're left out because social media technology has taken over. Because again, everybody is not on social media. I have a guest that wants to come up on the I keep calling it Wisdom. It's the Noon Vibe app now, y'all, because Wisdom merged with Noon Vibe. So let's bring up our guest, Jason, Jason Knight.
Hey Karen, GITD, it's been a while. Yeah, I think I might not have been on your space since the change over to Noon. Um, but yeah, thanks for having me up. I'm essentially, and I'll just be vulnerable to say, I'm kind of lonely when I don't get to come up on people's podcasts because I don't really have much of an in-person community.
Mm-hmm.
Because I sold my house and I invested everything on my online system. So I guess I'd have a lot more people with me if we were still on lockdown or something. But now all the buildings open back up, and I sold my building, so this is the most I get to relate with people like online. I do live in Antigua now, and there are people all around me, but it's not the same culture. I find like it's a little bit harder to make friends when you're 46. So haven't really made any friends local. I do have some family, like my cousin, you know, gets together with me sometimes, and my uncle brings me breakfast. But you know, I appreciate this because I don't have like I'm not where I'm from, and I'm not not that I had tons of friends there, but at least it was my community. So I particularly like going up on other people's podcasts because when I have them, I don't find there's a lot of people. So I try to give people what I would like. Like I would love it if people came up on mine, but they don't. So that's why I appreciate coming on here. So thank you for having me.
You're welcome, Jason. And I didn't know that you had a podcast. I'm glad that you said something about that because I definitely would love to be a partaker in that as
Yeah,
well.
well, we can schedule something. That's
Yeah.
what we have to do because you understand. Because I'm always online. Like I used to come up here on the Wisdom app, and I would be there for 3 hours. Not one person come up. And the thing is, what people didn't realize at first, I didn't realize that the numbers are just if somebody passes through. So I was like, oh, so many people listening to me, and I'm like, no, actually, nobody's listening to me because after like 2 hours, I would say like, okay, if you're listening, clap, and like nobody would, or maybe one person. So like, I put in my work of time, right? But it's not a good use of time to stay for 4 hours waiting for people to come up when people are just passing through, right? So that's why we'd have to schedule it. You understand, right? Because I'm
Yeah.
always online. Like I'm like I work for myself, so I'm not like most people. They're like 9 to 5, and then
Right.
they'll pop on in the evening or something, or maybe in the morning, or no. But I'm always here, so it is totally not effective to wait for, like, you're not always here probably, right? So maybe
Right.
that's why we'd have to schedule it, right? But in terms of, I do think we learn more if we say what the differences of our views are. Like I saw somebody else was having a thing, and I know it's nice to make friends, maybe to come up and say common ground. Just say what things you have in common. Oh yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. But
Mm-hmm.
don't you learn more when somebody says, actually, I disagree with that?
Yeah, I think that you would learn more because that's when the conversation starts because the questions come in like, "Well, why do you disagree?" Or and then the next question comes and they be like, "Okay, well, why do you whatever you said, why do you feel that way?" So it's like you start learning from their perspective because it's like an open-ended conversation and you keep going.
For sure. And maybe that's why I don't have as many friends, but I think the other way I would have a lot of fake friends because it would seem like you have in common. Like, for instance, when I was working at Microsoft, there was this guy who says, "Oh, hey, he relates with people, he gets along with everybody, he just agrees with what they're saying." Like, if somebody's, I said, how does that work? Like, if somebody's saying, like, "Oh, I think Michael Jordan was the best ever,"
Hmm.
somebody's saying, "I think LeBron was the best ever in basketball," right? Like, you're talking to the person that thinks like Michael Jordan was the best ever.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I agree. And then the other, you go talk to the other person and they say, I think LeBron was way better than Michael Jordan. You're like, yeah, I agree. What happens when they meet? And you're with both of them, right?
Right.
Then you're fake, right? So I'm definitely not fake. And I'd rather know the differences at the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
and then, and then I think if I call it putting my worst foot forward, and it's not necessarily worst foot if you just have a difference of opinion, but then if the person accepts you, then okay, you get better and better and better. And this works well for relationships,
It
maybe
does.
fewer relationships, but you don't have fake relationships. And then you find out that the person was a serial killer last decade and it didn't come up, right? And then you're like, I don't know if I'm okay with that worst foot. You know what I'm saying? Because
Mm-hmm.
what if you have a relapse? So, like, I'm really upfront with people. Like, I beat my dad's generation curse. He struggled with depression. He tried to end his life a couple times. I fell in line.
Wow.
I went the same psych ward as him, and now I'm
Mm.
great. Right, the last time was 2011,
That's
and ever
awesome.
since I've been, yeah, like, I think it's great to break the things that whether you call them generation curses or
That's right.
just your things that you're brought up with, right? And how it relates to this is that a lot of people struggled in the pandemic, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because they were alone, they disrupted. And what I realized about life is the most important thing is to be able to adapt. This is
Right.
what I think, right? Because if you can't adapt, you end up like what we were saying. Those people that, like, look, when there were when cars, people were like, oh, it's going to destroy everything. Everybody's going to be driving, right? Like, when there's phones, this is going to destroy everything. People aren't going to talk to each other, right? Like, when there's internet, oh, internet's going to take over. It's like the mark of the beast or something. And that's what was going on in 2000 because I was working at Microsoft. So people were like, oh, Y2K, when
Yeah.
2000 comes on, the computer's going to stop, right? Everything's going
Mm-hmm.
to blow up, right? Like Bill Gates and them, they only made two digits. For people that don't know about this, but I guess you're old enough that you know about it, right? Like, they only made two digits at first because it was such, space was so hard to, well, computer space now, like, just one iPhone holds as much as the big blue IBM computer that took up a whole room, right? More, actually, right? So because space was short, they only had the two digits. They said, oh, when it goes up to four, it's going to be, everybody catastrophizing, right? And they did have to do some work to the computers, but nothing blew up. There was no, like,
Right.
atomic, I live in a nuclear power plant city. The nuclear power plant didn't blow up, right? Like, there were no huge disasters. So I really just am like, when people are catastrophizing about AI, I'm just like, have you read any history?
Right. Right. Exactly.
Like, have you really talked to somebody that has been alive longer than, like, 25 years? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and do those people pay attention?
Right.
Like, this has happened several times in history. There's been changes, whether it's the Industrial Revolution, whether it's going from horses to cars, you know, and there are some people that can adapt and some people that refuse to. There are some
Right.
people that refuse to learn how to ride a horse. There are some people that refuse to learn how to drive a car. And, I think that what can we do?
True.
Like, I'll
True.
drive without you. You know, like what can we do? I'll use the internet without you. Like my mom is. I was so proud of my mom. Managed to, she agreed to learn to accept an email money transfer. So I don't think you all have this in the states. You have Cash App in the states,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
We don't have Cash App in Canada. We can email money, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like because we only have five major banks, I don't know if you know that, but we can email, and you get an email and it says this, Jason sent $50, and
Wow.
then you can accept it from an email, right? You
Mm-hmm.
all have too many banks, so like it doesn't work like that. So you guys can't, you all need Cash App. But my mom agreed to learn how to receive money. I'm like, if you don't even have to try to learn how to receive money, right? So, but she won't come on Facebook, but she agreed to learn how, because she might have to call her bank or get somebody there. Because I'm in Antigua, she's in Toronto,
Oh wow.
right?
Okay.
So yeah, so like I can't, because I'm a loving son, right? Like I would show her how, but I can't. So she might have to ask my sister or figure it out. But she's 79. And that's an accomplishment. Like I remember she had a cousin that was still going. She would go on dating apps and everything. My mom is not about to do that, but at least she agreed to receive money and learn how to do that. So I think it's all about it's if you learn how to adapt,
Mm-hmm.
you can learn how to have better relationships, how to see your family more or
Right.
friends. You can learn how to have a better life, make more money, have a better business. And I think that's the key takeaway. I think for the community to work, you have to reach out to the community.
You
For
do.
us to be able to help people, they have to be willing to learn. And I've tried to help people. I've sold my house twice to help people, and I learned that some people just don't want to learn and they're not willing to adapt. So they're hard to help.
Yeah, I agree with that, Jason. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts about, you definitely touched on the foundation of relationship and connecting with the community, vice versa. Like you got to have a mindset to adapt, because you can adapt to whatever you want to adapt to. And we know before there was technology that we had to do word of mouth, we had to get out. Now that technology has made it, better, more easier, is like, okay, some of us is like, okay, I'm gonna just do away with the community. But again, the community, the people in the community, they still need your word of mouth. They still need you to show up. They still want to meet with you face to face. They still need your help because they may not just be as tech savvy. Not only that, like you said, people well, like I was saying earlier too, and like you said, they don't want to adapt, but they also don't want to adapt. It's like, what's the reason behind that? And you touched on some of that too, Jason. The reason behind it is that because they don't trust it. They don't trust it, and they don't trust people because of the world that we're living in, and things have changed. We know that things will never be the same because we're in 2024. We can't go back to 5 years ago. We can't go back to 10 years ago. We can't go back to the year of 2000 again. So we do have to adapt to the 20th 21st century, right? We've got to adapt to it. We've got to adapt to what's needed, but still don't leave people in the community blinded. Don't I want to say, don't abandon them because they have their reasons of why they don't want to take to technology. I'm gonna bring Jason back up, you guys, on the new Vibe app. I hope you guys are enjoying this.
Okay. Yes. I think yes, and that was good in terms of what I didn't account for in terms. I think what the root of that is,
Mm-hmm.
that fear. I think that there's two major things happening with that. I think that the root of it is abuse, and let me explain
Mm-hmm.
and see if you understand what I'm saying. The root of that is abuse. So I think there's only two problems in the world. So now I'm going to start saying some things that maybe people haven't heard. This is what I've come down to simplify things, because I've read over 100 books since 2010. It's not common, but I have heard met people that said they read 100 a year. I don't know how they have the time, but I believe it. I've read 100, a decade essentially, right? So, well, since 2010.
Mhm.
Okay,
Mhm.
books about life, like Think and Grow Rich, Rich Dad Poor Dad, Law of Success, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, Atomic Habits. Really classic books that are known for like how to win friends and influence people, right? Books that people say, hey, this is a book about how to live well, right? And of course, my root of it is the Bible as well. And I
Right.
that's what I'm a minister. But what I would say is that, regardless of what people believe,
Mhm.
not that many people have challenged me on this when they understood it. Because I believe I plan to govern Canada. I'm going to run for prime minister next decade, and I know most people are not
Awesome.
believers. Yeah, most people are, and I planned that since grade 5, so I don't think it's me. I think it's my purpose. My grade 5 book was about that, right, since 1988. I haven't met anybody else that had their vision that clear for grade 5 that it's in the newspaper. My testimonies in the newspaper about what a book in grade 5 about running for a minister. So I'll say this, and it's not until next decade. So I'll have time. I'll be 53 at the turn of the decade, and I'll have until 63 to run. So most of the people that are in leadership now, like Joe Biden, he's
Mhm.
planning, but he didn't write a book about it in grade 5. Neither did Barack Obama. Neither did Clinton, and definitely Donald Trump did not. So what I can say is this, right? I think there's only two problems in the world, and I'm saying this because I realize most of the people that I govern or that I would be asking to govern will not have any same belief system, but some of them will agree with this. That there's two main problems. Number one is lack of knowledge. So that's
Right.
why we started out knowing that. Right? I didn't know how to not struggle with depression, so I ended up struggling with depression. I didn't know how to, and then I read the Law of Happiness, and that helped me. And understanding studying what happened with my dad, that helped me, and a lot of different things. So the second one, I believe, is abuse of power.
Mm.
So, right, when a parent abuses their child, beats them, right? When a husband abuses his wife, he has more power, physical might, right? Mm-hmm. And he abuses that. When a boss hits on their employee, and I've seen that in the workplace, right? Like, so she has to decide whether to quit or, whether to, just kind of do that, whatever the boss is asking her to do. That's inappropriate, right? So, or report it, and then they believe her, maybe they don't, right? So, all of these things, racism, sexism, fascism, anti-Semitism, all of these anti-Islamophobia, all of these things are abuses of power because the person in power then discriminates against the person that has a little bit of power, right? So the person that is rich, the person that's a master, taking advantage of the person that they're able to overpower and make their slave. Mm-hmm. So I think even if somebody doesn't agree with my perspective in terms of their religious belief, they can say, okay, yeah, this is a problem. Ignorance is a problem, so we learn. And number two, yeah, abuse of power is a problem. I think they're the only two problems. So this is how I relate it to this. Okay, so I think that you are showing that you care about the people that maybe it's not as easy for them to be online and all of those things. Underprivileged or maybe under-resourced, or some people don't have those privileges. So this is why I do care about that. I do. That's why I want to be in office. It's not to get power, or it's not to get a big cushy job after or something like that. That doesn't happen as much in Canada, but it does happen to an extent. But it's I definitely know more about that in grade 5. So it's about helping people, right?
Right.
That's why I'm supposed to be in government. So that's why. But what I've learned is that you can do only so much, and there's some people that, like, okay, for instance, in Canada, right, it's really cold in Toronto. It gets to be minus 20 below freezing. Mm-hmm. So, like, if homeless people do not go inside of shelter, you wake up February mornings and they say 3 homeless people died last night. Was there space in the shelters? Yes. But they died outside. Mm-hmm. What can you do?
Right.
There's some people, if you help them, they'll actually cuss you out, and they might even attack you.
True.
Like, what can you do? So there's certain limits to what we can do. So yes, you can provide a shelter. Yes, you can have a program. Yes, you can have retraining programs. Yes, but at some point, the person has to use their own power to actually learn and adapt.
Right.
So that's my point with it. Where does it come from when people are scared? It comes from them getting abused, I think, in some way. So if you abuse a child, okay, I'll give you an example with a dog. I reach out my hands to dogs. I really love dogs. I reach my hand out to dogs in Antigua, and some of them cower away because they think I'm going to hit them.
Mhm. Mhm.
Same people. If you were abused as a child, right? Like you're gonna tend to think you have to protect yourself, be fearful, scared of change. But if you're really loved well, you could be well adjusted and not struggle with the fear. I'll give you a practical example. I'm not sure why, but I met somebody that she's amazingly confident, very successful, or she was on the Dr. Phil show, and she wants me to like do some work with her because I'm like her background is not as much on the internet, so like she shows up on a Zoom, and she just was telling me what she wants, about her business and how she wants me to help. And I thought it was great. There's other people I meet, and they can't turn on their camera.
Wow.
And I'm like, they need. And I interviewed, a doctor about this, and she said, well, some people need counseling. So now, whatever it is that has made somebody, because I said, wait a minute, I even saw that I was a volunteer organization where we help people. We loan females loan, like the $10,000 loan program for entrepreneurs. And it's mainly women entrepreneurs. They're like basically, there's a lot of discrimination against women, more so than men, I believe. I agree.
Mhm.
So both men and women volunteer on it, and so one of the people that had gotten the loan, she was behind in the payment, and she has to come back and report, and ask for more time to pay back and kind of report. You have to report your account once a loan,
Right.
So, but she doesn't turn on her camera, and I'm thinking, when you had to go into a bank or the government, and I acknowledge that I'm not judged by how I look as much as a man, but before the pandemic, everybody, maybe there's some exceptions. There are some Muslims that maybe they wear a burqa, but everybody else showed their face.
Right. So exactly.
That I'm not a woman. I acknowledge that it's my gender that tends to judge the other gender in terms of looks. But you could speak on it. Why is it now okay? Because it's okay, yes, but she owes us money. She owes us money. This is the report. Now, I understand that you could say, well, we didn't say that you have to show your face. It's just like, yeah, you could go to a job interview and not show your face and wear a bag over your face in person. But why would you have to say you have to show your face? And I've seen this, that say you have to turn on your camera. I think that you are judged when you show your face, and I judge when you don't. So I'm going to say this. I judge people when they don't turn on their camera. I don't know if they're paying attention. I can't see them if their eyes are. She has to say what she did with the money and trust us to believe her. And I can't see her eyes. So it would never happen in person unless the person says why they, like maybe a religious reason they put it, they're wearing a burqa, right? So this is just something that I personally am speaking on because I think people are taking advantage of social media in the sense they don't have to show their face. I know, because I could be doing something else.
That's true.
I could be doing, right? So the thing is, I'm gonna come on class when I come out of the shower, right? I don't want you to see me, but if this is a meeting, and I can just say I hire, okay? So if I'm hiring and you don't put on your camera, you did a good job right off the bat. Because you're lazy, you're not paying attention. There's all sorts of reasons, and if you're get counseling. Because if somebody abused you and said you don't look good enough, I think you look good enough. Because God made you look good enough, I think you should get counseling.
Right. I agree. That was a great way of putting that. And thank you for sharing, Jason, those examples. Even, what I'm saying, with your clients and the things that you do. Thank you for, giving that example. But I hope you all just take some time out to really think about, the differences, like me and Jason was saying, between, um, you know, being face to face or being in a community versus technology. So we are out of time, you all. So I really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you all for tuning in. For those of you who were passing through or will catch the replay, thank you for tuning in to my Monday Night Live. Again, there will be an episode uploaded Thursday. Tune in. If you want to know any information, please check the bio. All the links are below to get in touch with me. One-on-one coaching, the coaching summit, there are several different things that we're doing in this season. So make sure you check that out. Don't forget to follow us on all podcast platforms and all social media platforms. If you're not following us, we will continue this conversation again this week. And again, like I said, we will also be talking about how we need to stop carrying people and things that don't want to be carried. So make sure you tune in for uh, Wisdom Wednesday and Therapy Thursday. I hope to talk to you all soon. Have a great night.